Hi, in this video we're going to create an example of an array list. So you should be able to follow along with me. I'm going to do a Java project and call this thing playlist. And then inside of here I'm going to open up my source folder and add a new class. Let's call it playlist. And I'm going to check the main string args argument here. So we have a main method. So that's what you should get first. So the first thing we're going to do is create an integer list. So let's go inside the main method, and here's how you declare things. So you put in the word list, and then the type of data inside the angle brackets. Your list can be any name, so I'm going to call it integer list. And then you say equals a new array list. Now this might be confusing to say, why wouldn't it say list over here like you said on the left? Looks like we have to import things, so choose java.util for importing for both of these. So the question is, why does list exist on this side and array list exist over here? Why can't you just say equals a new list? Let's see why. Let's see what the error is. It says here, it is you cannot instantiate the type list. And so list is actually an interface. And so you can't actually create an interface. So array list is a type of list. So let's do a quick search here on Google to say what's the difference between an array list and a Java list, and let's see what happens. And so here's a good explanation. It says list is an interface, array list is actually a class. And so it's an implementation. And so you can see that lists can have multiple types of things that implement it. So read through some of the explanations and see if you can clear up your mind there. So back to our program here, I'm going to add some elements to my list. So integer list is going to be the first item, and I can say dot add. Now what's my integer? I can put in a 10, for example. Let's also print out the system.out print line for integer list and see what we get there. We'll run the program, and you can see that I have one item in my list. So the square brackets indicate that we're an array list. So let's print a few more items. I'll print 0 and I'll add 139. Let's run this program, and you should see all three of them now in the list. Let's try to add something that's not an integer. So I'm going to put in a string called my best friend. When we're done, you'll see that we have a compiler error. It says you can't use that. It is type integer and we're expecting string. So if we wanted to add names to a list, I would create another list, and this time I'm going to call it string list. So let's try to add two elements. So the first element I'll call a string is hello world, and the second one let's list it as hi world. So let's go ahead and try to print out the list. So I'll use system.out.println and we'll run the program. And you can see I've got the list. So let's say I want to create a loop now and loop through each list one item at a time. So I should be able to create a for loop. I'm going to specify that data is the counter variable and it's an integer. So one by one we will print the integers. Let's see what this works when I print it. And so you can see I have a list and it's printing one line per item. So I'm going to copy and paste my loop and change the integer data type to a string. Let's run it again. And now I show the strings. So another way to print or loop is to use what's called an iterator. And so an iterator is used in while loops. Looks like I'm going to have to import it. And so let's create the while loop. So inside the while loop, we're going to check with the has next operator to see if there is another item in the list, and then we're going to print that out using the next item. So let's run this again, and we get ourselves the in the while loop message too. And so there's a demo of some of the operations that you can use with array lists. So here's a tempting thing that some people would do. They would say, hey look, an object list here. I'm going to create a list of generic objects, and I can put anything in them I want. So I can put in strings, I can put in numbers, I can put in friends, people, anything. And that is just generally not a good idea because your data types are not checked. I imagine there might be some reasons why you would have to do this, but I would recommend not. So there's an example of some array list operations.